Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful firsthand account from Talbot County, Maryland. It details 3 different cases of extreme violence. And these aren't just horrifying stories. They're evidence of a justice system that had completely, utterly failed to protect the lives of enslaved people. Right from the start, the source material lays out this absolutely chilling idea. In this time and place, killing an enslaved person just wasn't treated as a crime. It had no real consequences. This wasn't some rare exception, it was the rule. And the stories we're about to walk through are presented as the proof. So, our first case study is about a man whose entire job was to enforce control with brutality, an overseer who is known for his cruelty, a Mr. Austin Gore. And here's the thing about Mr. Gore. The way he's described, he wasn't some hot-headed guy flying into a rage. No, the source says he had an inflexible firmness and stone-like coolness. This wasn't about passion. For him, the violence was, it was procedural, just part of the job, done with a cold, calculated sense of duty.
And that brings us to an enslaved man named Demby. During a whipping, Demby did something incredibly desperate. He ran into a creek nearby to get away from the pain, and he stood there, in water up to his shoulders. Now, for Mr. Gore, this wasn't just a man trying to escape pain. No, this was defiance. And that was something he absolutely could not tolerate.
So what does Gore do? He doesn't wade into the creek after him. Instead, he just stands there and gives him this cold ultimatum. Come out after 3 calls or be shot. Demby stays silent. And after that 3rd call, without any hesitation, Mr. Gore raises his musket and kills him. It was basically a calculated public execution. So how did Gore possibly justify this? Well, his argument was all about control. He said that if Demby had defied him and gotten away with it, it would set a terrible example. It would threaten a complete breakdown of order. He essentially framed the murder as a necessary evil to keep the whole system from falling apart. And the outcome for him, you might be wondering? Well, his defense was accepted. He wasn't just let off the hook. He kept his job, and his reputation as a so-called efficient overseer grew. Think about that. The murder was never even investigated. He went completely unpunished. Okay, let's shift gears to our second case, and believe it or not, this one shows an even more casual, almost boastful kind of cruelty. We're moving from the plantation field into the town of St. Michael's. This time, we're talking about a man named Mr. Thomas Landman. The source just states it bluntly. He killed 2 enslaved men. It says he murdered one of them by knocking his brains out with a hatchet. Just a direct, brutal act of violence. So what happened to Mr. Landman? What was the outcome for him? He didn't just get away with it. He would openly brag about the murders. He'd actually laugh about it, framing what he did as some kind of public service, a benefit to the country. Impunity clearly wasn't enough. He wanted social credit for it. All right, our 3rd and final case study. This one brings the violence right into the home, and it really highlights the terrifying vulnerability of enslaved women and children. The victim here was a very young girl, maybe 15 or 16 years old, and the source adds this really heartbreaking personal detail. She was the cousin of the narrator's wife. So what was her crime? Her supposed offense? She was exhausted from lack of sleep, and she fell asleep while she was supposed to be watching a baby. The baby cried, and for that, her mistress and Mrs. Hicks punished her by, beating her with a heavy oak stick. Her nose and breastbone were broken, and she died just a few hours later. Now, in this case, something a little different happened. We see a flicker of the legal system. A coroner actually confirmed the girl was murdered by the beating, and a warrant was issued for Mrs. Hicks's arrest. But that warrant, it was never actually served. She was completely shielded from the law, never having to face a court for what she did. Okay, so let's step back and look at all 3 of these stories together. What do the actions of Mr. Gore, Mr. Landman, and Mrs. Hicks really tell us about the system that let them act with total impunity? Let's just quickly review what we've seen. A man is shot for refusing an order. 2 men are killed, one with a hatchet. A teenage girl is beaten to death for falling asleep. And in every single one of these cases, what was the outcome? The exact same thing. 0 consequences. The people who did this just continued on with their lives, respected, unpunished, and, as the source puts it, unwhipped of justice. You see, these stories aren't really about 3 individual bad apples. That's not the point.
They are the predictable and, in fact, logical results of a system that legally defined people as property. Because when a human being is legally defined as property, violence against them, even outright murder, is no longer treated as a crime against a person.
And all of this leaves us with a really profound and disturbing question. This system wasn't just broken or failing to provide justice. It was actively blocking it. It was working as designed, which forces us to ask, when the very law that's supposed to deliver justice is instead used to protect murderers, what is justice?